This is Boyd White, Director of Technical Solutions Engineering at Tanium. And if you want to know what's happening in information security, you should be listening to the InfoSecSync podcast with my good friend, Nick Thomas.
If you're looking for insight into the vast world of information security, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the InfoSecSync podcast, the only top-rated information security podcast committed to helping you enhance your cyber skill set. Listen in on conversations with world-class information security thought leaders, subject matter experts, authors, and more as we exchange ideas, best practices, and discuss the latest trends, threats, strategies, and solutions for your success. So get ready to get in sync with your host, Nick Thomas.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the InfoSecSync podcast, where we keep you in sync with the ever-changing world of information security. I'm your host, Nick Thomas, and this week I'm speaking with Mr. Boyd White. He's the Director of Technical Solutions Engineering at Tanium, dedicated to Tanium's global banking customers. Boyd supports Tanium's largest and most complex customers and works to create solutions that leverage all platform capabilities to deliver novel and innovative solutions for Tanium's customers. Boyd has dedicated over 15 years advancing goals of information security in both the public and private sector. He began his career with the NSA Red Team and gained practitioner experience in all realms of information security, from prevention to response and recovery. He has led incident response engagements for small and large organizations around the world, including some of the largest payment card industry forensic investigations, contributed to the creation of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, created and implemented Red Team frameworks for several large commercial organizations, and more recently has been authoring manager and practitioner guides to handle compelling industry events such as software end of life, SolarWinds, FireEye, and critical vulnerabilities such as the Exchange vulnerabilities. Boyd is most recently specializing in managing compliance and vulnerability projects and has deep expertise in remediating vulnerabilities and helping customers to build supporting control frameworks to ensure consistent and continuous compliance. He continues to be a trusted subject matter expert in the field of cybersecurity and operational resilience, with numerous papers published on the subject. He holds a Master of Science degree in Information Technology, Information Assurance with a concentration in Computer Offensive Security from Eastern Michigan University. In his spare time, he enjoys reading, tinkering with electronics, and playing video games. And without any further ado, here's the interview. Hey Boyd, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, life's great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, haven't seen you in a long time.
It's been too long.
So a lot of our fans want to know how you got started in cybersecurity. Can you let them know what 13-year-old Boyd was thinking? Did he always have cybersecurity in mind, or how did you gradually get to that place?
Sure. So I always loved tinkering with toys and electronics when I was a kid. Used to do the typical thing that the kids do probably even to this day. They play around on the computer, try to hack other kids, try to send emails from someone that's not really them. So just playing around, tinkering around. Really fell in love with it when I heard about an opportunity in the Navy as a cryptographic technician of computers. I thought this is a great idea. I can actually turn my hobby into something as a profession. So that's what I did.
That's great. So did you come into the Navy as a CTN?
I came in as a CTO, so of communications, and then shortly after, I joined the CTN rank that was of networks once it became available. I missed the plank owner that I see behind you, so I think I was the second wave.
Awesome. And that's when I met you at a certain agency doing the good hacking stuff.
Yeah, a certain national agency of security.
So let me ask you, over at Tanium, do you see a lot of ransomware with your clients?
So we do encounter people that come to us that have had ransomware before, and so that is a pretty pressing topic for today, I would say. Many people are curious about what they can do about ransomware, and because it's been in the news so much, they're wondering, what can I do about it?
Yeah, that's what's topping the news headlines recently. So let's talk about that a little bit. May 1's the Colonial Pipeline, right? So who was it? The Shadow Brokers, I think, got into that one.
Yep. So the Colonial Pipeline is the largest refined gasoline pipeline in the world, I believe. Was actually hit with a ransomware type of malware. One of the first attacks I remember happening of a federal of a federal nature was actually Baltimore back in, I think it was 2019. Had something very similar happen to them. It was ransomware took advantage of their data. They had to shut the city down for, I think it was a few weeks.
So as I live and breathe in Baltimore, because one of my big clients are here, my son goes to the school system here, and they got hit with ransomware along with a lot of other school systems during COVID. So that's just another piece to the puzzle,
Yeah. There's a bunch of resources out there to help the K through 12 organizations combat that, but it's really difficult because a lot of school systems don't have a lot of IT staff, and so they're looking for any resource that they can have.
So I know Verizon puts out a data breach investigation report. So what are the latest numbers from there?
Yeah, so if I recall correctly, the Verizon data breach investigation is something that gets released every year, and they've been seeing it doubling from last year. So ransomware was involved in 10% of the breaches that they recorded. So they catalog all the breaches that they work on, and it was 10% of breaches this year as opposed to 5% last year. So it's doubling, and which is troubling.
Do you think that breach had to do with COVID, because a lot of people were home on their home networks or VPNing into work?
And that's an interesting point. I'm not sure if that was a correlation there. There's definitely more controls that have had to change because of the edge that's moving farther and farther away from the business. I'm not sure if that's one of them, but I know it's a lot. It's affecting more and more people. And when your neighbors start talking about ransomware, it's something that's hitting more than just the cybersecurity industry.
Yeah, they don't even say malware. Malware is what we learn about when you're going through, whatever school or training. You learn the term malware, and then now it's ransomware because there's a ransom involved with money. Give us your money, or we will either leak all your information, or we will delete your information. And basically, that's a business model for a lot of the hackers around the world that don't have any other way to, what they think, make money. They use ransomware as a service.
Yeah, there is actually literally ransomware as a service. Like you have infrastructure as a service, you have ransomware as a service. So I think you've already hit the nail on the head here, but ransomware is a type of malware that holds your computer hostage, essentially, and it asks for money. A lot of times it's in some type of cryptocurrency because it's much harder to track. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that ransomware became so popular, is because now we've got this new untraceable cryptocurrencies floating around. And so there's a new way to pay. And the hackers have gotten very clever because if you don't pay, like you said, they'll threaten to leak your data. So even if you don't care about losing your data, now you have to worry about what's in the data that could be leaked.
So now you have a reputation issue, right?
You have a personal reputation issue as well as a corporate one. So if my personal data gets leaked, what's in there that I didn't think I used to care about.
And so it also makes the currencies more popular, like Bitcoin. I don't even know what the price is today, but it's a staggering amount of money. And because of ransomware as a service, I know a lot of law firms and corporate counsel are buying Bitcoin for their clients because they know at some point they might get breached, or their clients might get breached, and they're going to have to use that Bitcoin to make the payment.
You bring up an interesting point, whether or not to pay the ransomware. So some leading industry experts will tell you never pay a ransom. Maybe sometimes it's better to pay it. So depending on the cost of the ransom, is it cheaper to pay it? But can you really ever trust a hacker?
Right, and some experts will tell you to actually pay it because it is a business and they're supposed to, I guess, pay up their end of the bargain. So it's a 50-50, right?
I can tell you, if I pay a ransom, I will definitely still delete my computer and probably buy a new one.
Or just throw it in the ocean, right? Let the salt water get to it.
Yeah, I would not trust that computer after it had ransomware on it. It's a very frightening thing. I've had friends with ransomware before, and they turn on their computer and there's a skull and crossbones or something that displays on the screen, and it gives a very scary warning. And it's a frightening experience because your heart kind of just sinks. And that's one of the other cruel parts of this in my mind is they get you with fear because if you don't pay within a certain amount of time, the cost goes up. And so you start to see people paying just because they know that the cost is going to go up, and so they're just enticed to pay very early.
So you bring up a good point with actually getting rid of your system. A lot of enterprises don't have that luxury because there's a lot of systems involved. But how does one know after they've been breached and they pay the ransom that there's not something else that they put on there, right?
I would not trust that PC once it had ransomware. It's no longer trusted in my mind.
So this is where I guess the experts come in when you call them to do an incident response report, anything else that they found on there, and I guess what do they recommend you do after that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases you'll have to notify local or federal law enforcement, and they can help you take the appropriate actions. Many times you have to rely on your IT organization to do the right thing, and hopefully remove all traces of it.
So, since you work for Tanium, can you explain your endpoint product, how it works?
Sure. So the short story is, we basically help you manage the endpoint. So what does that mean? So all of your hundreds of thousands of machines out there, if you're a large company, or your tens of thousands of machines if you're a medium company, we help you identify how many are online and give you real-time visibility and control. Gives you the basic information. So if you are hit by ransomware, which sometimes customers come to us and they've already been impacted by ransomware, we can go out there and tell you which of your files are encrypted. How many files are encrypted. We can help you recover from that situation as well, and then we'll help you build back, and then hopefully you won't have ransomware the next time.
So does your product work like other products where there is a main database that it pulls the information from, or is it shared or something like that?
Yeah, so our product works very differently from many other technologies that are endpoint management companies. The way we're able to get real-time data is because we're a peer-to-peer linear chain network, and our data is real-time. So that means that when you ask a question, which processes are running, I actually can find out which processes are running right now. I don't have to pull it from a database or some log, or wait for attackers to do their deeds and then query it after the fact. I can move as fast as the hacker can.
So it's real fast, real quick.
Yeah, you can do two things. You can ask questions and you can take actions, and you can do them both very fast. And that's very helpful in the case of ransomware, or really any security or IT problem you have. I think that's what we've learned in the last year plus is laptops are now at homes. They're way beyond the edge that we used to see. And people they still need visibility and control, and they need it faster than ever. It's true for private enterprises. It's also true for federal governments and local and state agencies.
So the folks out there that are new to cybersecurity and malware or ransomware, what can they do to avoid getting these things?
So for me, I think everything comes down to the basics. There's actually a really good cybersecurity infrastructure security agency. I think I've got that right. CISA article on this that I hope you can post the link to.
Okay.
But I think the basics are make sure that you're patched. Make sure that you don't click links that you don't trust. So even if it looks like someone that you know, be really careful about opening a link or clicking an attachment in an email. That's how many of those ransomware initial payloads get spread. Making sure that you have good passwords and you don't share them. Be very careful about the tools you have installed. So third-party products like Adobe Reader, third-party, Microsoft Office. Make sure they're up to date or not installed at all, because having outdated software viewing those attachments can cause issues. And making sure you have up-to-date operating systems as well, because if the tool bypasses the initial vector, then it has to install an operating system, and modern operating systems have additional controls in them that can prevent the effectiveness or prevent ransomware from being as effective as it would like to be. Having really basic things like antivirus, restricting outbound internet access to locations that aren't allowed, and creating separate logical environments is another big one. So separating and segmenting your network is very important.
And you bring a good point. The weakest link, right? We're always taught it's the user, and clicking on the link. So what's funny is I constantly get 2 emails that try to get me. One was actually yesterday. It says it's PayPal, and the funny thing is I don't use PayPal, but it says, hey, your account is, something wrong with your account. We need you to come in and take a look. And what some people don't realize is you can, without clicking on the email, you can look at who it's from, and you'll know right away that it's not from PayPal, because it's going to be some long name that doesn't even have to do with PayPal. One that almost got me was an email that it looked like it was from Apple. Everything looked real, and it said something about your order for your iPhone is delayed, something about being delayed, or there's a problem with your order. And the funny thing was, we were actually looking for that product the night before for my son. So I was like, in my house, like, wait, we didn't order it. We were just looking. And, before I did anything else, I looked, and sure enough, it wasn't Apple. It's like, that's a good one, and I've been using that in some slides, for some of the classes that I teach. Like, this is what you got to watch out for.
You have to be more careful than ever. Hackers are becoming more and more clever. It's like Darwin's Law, but for hackers. The best ones are surviving and getting people to click their links. The most recent one that got me was I won't say what company, but a company I worked for did phishing scenarios, and they would send out phishing links. And right around the time of a holiday, they sent out an email saying your PTO, your time off has been denied. You do not have enough PTO for this. And so I clicked the link. It was very, very well crafted, and clicked the link, and it was a phishing attempt. It was a training attempt, luckily. But I clicked the link. I was, not paying it full vigilance I should have, and I clicked the link.
You created a security report.
I ended up in a security report, I'm sure, and made sure that any time that this happened to me again, I wouldn't let emotion take a hold of me and click a link.
You got mad really fast when you saw that, right?
It was very clever. It was a very clever way to get someone to click a link. I will not follow for that same trick again, and hope your listeners don't either.
Hey, so you mentioned earlier about creating a separate logical environment. So what about backups?
So yeah, if you can't, I'd like to talk a lot about resilience. If you can't avoid getting ransomware, one of the things you can do is have backups, so that at least the first vector of deleting your data or obscuring it so that you can't obtain it again is an avenue that you have, so you still have the data. So making sure that you have backups, and making sure that you don't have open shares everywhere. So one of the common attack vectors is that ransomware will get on the machine and then look for any shares that it has access to and try to encrypt them. obfuscate them and lock down the data. So if the shares aren't readable by everyone or writable by everyone, that attack also can't happen.
So lock down your NFS shares.
NFS, SMB, anything that's open that you have access to, lock it down and back it up. Because if you have it, at least they can't use that over your head, that you know that your data is safe and backed up.
So how could a mom and pop shop or just a regular consumer practice if they're breached, how to respond?
Yeah, so there's really good resources. We'll share some links. I think using some of those free resources online is the best avenue. Having a plan in place, so knowing who you're going to contact if this were to happen to you is really important, because the first thing that happens is panic. And if you have a plan, you can follow the plan. Mike Tyson said famously, "Everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face." Well, if you have a plan and you're punched in the face with ransomware, at least you have something you can follow. So you're not just going off of pure emotion like I was when I clicked that ransomware or that phishing link. You have a plan in place, so you're not as worried. You know that the basics are going to get done. So having a checklist is a very important tool.
Cool. So this ransomware, it seems like we're always at war with some hacker somewhere.
Yeah, I think we're in a cyber world war. I think we've entered into a cyber world war, and I think we've been there for a few years now. We don't have foot soldiers in our country, but we have literally thousands of attacks that are going on every minute of every day.
So is this one of the things that the new EO from President Biden addresses?
Yeah, so it does, in fact. So the executive order from Biden, basically says that in order to maintain our way of life, we're going to have to do better, and incremental changes is not it. We've let this go on for far too long, and it's going to take bold action to get us out of it. So we're going to have to partner closer with the vendors and the community and private sector. Mm-hmm. We're going to share information between the federal government and the private industry. And more people are looking to the federal government for advice. People are now willing to listen and take advice from the federal agencies that are responsible for the security of our digital infrastructure.
That's good news, because the private sector is where a lot of our currency and income come from, and small and medium businesses. We gotta protect that,
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I like to be able to go to my local shop and use my credit card there. I like to be able to pump gas whenever I like, and not drive up to a gas pump and see a bag over the handle. So small and medium businesses are have always been the heart of America, and large organizations, it's really important that they're protected as well, because I like to be able to have money in my bank account and know that those numbers are not going to be changed one day. So I think it's really important that we protect everyone, from the smallest sole proprietors all the way to the biggest organizations and federal governments.
So what do you think the key takeaway is today that people can go home with?
Yeah, so ransomware is just one of the attacks that you have to protect in this global cyber war, and we have to be prepared for it. You have to have a checklist in place. You want to make sure that you're able to recover if you are attacked, because you will be attacked, and the only question is how do you bounce back?
All right, good words. Boyd White, thanks for taking time out today and spending some time with us, and thanks for staying in sync with InfoSecSync. I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with me, listening or viewing this podcast. Please tell your friends and associates about it, and subscribe on your favorite platform. Please send any comments, questions, or requests to me, Nick, at InfoSecSync.com. And as always, thanks for staying in sync with InfoSecSync.
That's it for this episode. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. And as always, thanks for staying in sync with InfoSecSync.